Hello and welcome to another episode of KJ's Corner in Season 2. This is your shortcut to a smarter and more automated tech career. I'm Kyle John Fenton on LinkedIn, but I go by KJ. Today we're going to delve in the world of tech, automation, unlocking potential. But before we do that, I got to make sure we got to hit everyone at home, hit like, subscribe, comment, the whole nine. Make sure that you can support us. Your support means the world to us. Without you guys supporting us, we are not here. But enough about that. Let's get into our guest here. I got Tim Ostrander Jr. I actually did not know you were a junior until I saw that today, but you have that here. So I call him by Tim O. He is currently a customer success director at UiPath. But before we start talking about that role and what it is, how are you, man? I know we were cutting it up before this, but if you could just share with everyone how you're doing, that would be awesome.
Yeah, doing great. Life's good. Thanks for having me on the podcast here. Excited to chat today. Just keeping busy this time of year. Enjoying as much.
What's busy? Does it happen to have anything to do with quarter end by chance?
It has to do with fiscal year end, just a little bit.
Yeah? Fiscal year, yeah, exactly, yeah. Because keep me honest here, right? And we'll talk about this a little bit. So you work at UiPath. For those of you who follow me in the community, I used to work at UiPath. Hence why when I reached out to Tim, he would be more than happy to say yes to do this. But fiscal ends at the end of it's tomorrow, isn't it?
End of January, tomorrow. Yes, correct.
Yeah, and tomorrow, right? Which means any mad dash trying to get it over the hump. Have you dealt with any interesting predicaments that you'd be willing to share? If not, no big deal. I'm just putting you on.
Nothing too crazy. Nothing that I can dive too deep into. But it's the usual stuff. It's last minute deals, jumping in to help where we can, and then all the fiscal year 25 next year planning that we have to go into, as well as all the sales kickoff stuff that we have to do. Our internal annual conference that we do with the sales.
Yeah. Which I think makes sense because you are a customer success director. So I can cover what UiPath is. I work there. I should probably know what they do. They're a robotic process automation software company, happen to be number one in terms of market share. Love the product. If you aren't using it, you should. But in all seriousness, customer success. Could you give us a little bit of what in that is and then what being a customer success director means in a high level term? We're obviously going to go back in your career, but I'd love to hear from you what that role means to you and how you operate as a director.
Yeah. So largely, I mean, a lot of the roles in the name itself, success of the customer post-sale. So we come in after deals are made. There's some ad hoc work that we do in the pre-sale cycle as well to help customers understand the value of what they're purchasing, what they can get from it. And then really after they've acquired the software, help them develop automation strategies for, talking to their internal customers, selling it internally, highlighting the capabilities, making sure they've got a sound strategy to roll a true automation program out. Also understanding that UiPath's not at the center of the universe. We're just one component in the grand scheme of automation, if you will.
Sure.
And yeah, just helping block and tackle, help create strategies for them. Value realization is a big part of it as well. Making sure they understand what value they're actually getting from the software. And if they don't get it, if they don't know how to quantify it, to talk about it, all that, we help spell it out for them. And so, yeah, we're their post-sales strategy success managers that engage to help them, in really any facet that we can. We're bringing people
do the thing, right? Just do the thing instead of that. Yeah.
Yep.
Just helping you through it. You're good. Yeah. So for those who are listening to this, customer success, it's usually a post-sales function. You'll see it take a lot of different forms. UiPath has a pretty good program over there. Tim's obviously part of it, and I wouldn't pull someone who sucked right on the pod. So naturally he's there. But it really comes down to anything from implementation strategy all the way to making sure you're, just like you said, adhering to business value, which I think is key, especially for y'all if you're trying to break into tech, whether you are in the sales capacity or post-sale. I actually would argue post-sales is just as important, if not more, than actually making the sale, because retention is a big part of your role, is it not?
Oh, completely. Yeah. Yeah. Customer retention, customer health, making sure they're growing in the right direction, all that. And there's actually, you'll find some articles even on LinkedIn about is customer success dead? Is it a function?
I've heard that before. Yeah.
Yeah. There's an article about it. Nick Mehta from Gainside, they focus on customer success. Okay. Actually has a really good post about it.
That's awesome.
Check out. I'll shoot it over to you.
Cool. That'd be great. Yeah. I'll even include it in the. Yeah, I'll include it.
Yeah, it's very much not. It's still very much a need within the B2B software world.
I agree. Just so you're aware. I agree.
I appreciate that. And we're growing this year. Actually, I have 4 additional headcount that I'm going to be onboarding.
Awesome. Good for you.
In my region. So
wow, that's awesome. Well, that's only a good sign. So anyway, enough about what you do now. This is not the podcast to say what you're doing now so people can emulate it, so it's going to work. We actually want to go back through your career because breaking into tech really comes down to it's a mindset shift, to be honest with you. I think you would agree. And I think getting into the head of what you did, so to speak, or at least seeing what you did is key. So why don't we go back to, if you would, maybe I'm dating you here, maybe not that much. We're gonna go back to maybe, but we're gonna go back to September of 2008, where it looks like your first job in terms of what you've documented, so to speak, was at DST Systems as a client relations specialist. So I'd love to hear, how did you get the role? How did you hear about it? What happened? If it was a college thing, then that's fine too. But I'd love to hear about what you did in that role, because you spent about 2 years until you bumped up to senior, to where eventually it looked like you started to get into that project management world. So I'd love to hear what's DST Systems, because I think they were acquired by SS&C, and then more specifically that client relations role and what led to you becoming that IT project manager. And I'll let you go from there, man. World's yours.
Yeah, let's roll. So there's actually one role prior to that that's not listed on my LinkedIn.
This is exactly why I freaking bring it up, because people always bring up the role that's not documented. I love it. Go ahead.
So where I actually started was at a company called Boston Financial Data Services, or BFDS, who was a subsidiary of DST at that time, a joint venture between State Street and DST.
Sure.
And I started in the call center.
Wow. Okay. Got it.
I did not think I was gonna end up at that point in my life, but I did it as more of an end to DST, so I could, work my way up and whatnot. And how I actually got there, it was recommendation through a friend. Like they went that path, they progressed well, all that. But at the time, I was actually bartending. I was bartending and still going to school, and I wanted to get on a path where I could start a career while finishing my schoolwork at the time.
I mean, naturally, right? I don't know. Bartending can pay the bills, but I don't know, man. I'm sure you're probably not trying to go to school and then slog some nights. I mean, so how? I know this is a side tangent, but like, were you like, was it like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday? Like, what was were you grinding at it, or was it just more of like a hobby of yours? I mean, I
was grinding at it. It was at kind of like an upscale family restaurant in Kansas City. Back when I was living there, and so like it was fairly steady. Nights weren't too bad and all that. But I was grinding away like 5-6 days a week while doing school at the same time. And then, going on to BFDS in the call center, that was, normal 9 to 5 gig while doing school. And my path with schooling was a little bit different. I didn't do the traditional college route. I went to Johnson County Community College for like 4 years, and I changed my degree like 4 times.
Community college for 4 years, nice, super senior status, baby.
I mean, we went business admin path, and then we switched to culinary school at one point. Then I figured out I didn't want to be a chef, and hate my nights and weekends and all that.
There you go.
And so I went back to the like business, marketing, management, admin side, and then I got the job at BFDS and just started getting promoted and working my way up eventually at the company.
Was it just kind of more a traditional path there? Like, I mean, I'm looking at like the timeline. You started as client relations specialist, which I could say call center agent to that. And then you did senior for about 2 years, and then coordinator. That sounds like a director type position. And then it seemed like from that point you went, was it more just traditional in that just did, hit your MBOs, so on and so forth? Or was there more to it?
Kind of more or less, but in that, like that client relations specialist coordinator space there, I found something I was like really good at on project execution. So at the time, I was dedicated to one of our largest mutual fund customers at the time. And so I eventually took over it was about a 2-year project for implementation of some product that we were selling within the company. And it was I won't say disaster, but it was a ton of work, and I more or less knocked it out of the park. Just kind of nice. Like, a lot of travel, a lot of sacrificing in my personal life a little bit, just a lot of nights, weekends.
I mean, yeah.
The gig kind of thing.
I do. Yeah, I did consult. I was a management consultant at EY for 2 years, and then did RPA implementations for a year. And not for nothing, sometimes when you deal with some bad projects, it actually teaches you how to do it right the next time. Right.
Yeah. It also teaches you things that you enjoy, that you don't enjoy as well. I learned a lot about that. And then from there, I was dubbed our customer web advocate. It's like somewhere, I think I posted it in the LinkedIn description. But basically like the primary relationship point of contact for that customer. From our web products perspective. And this is like $100 million customer a year. Like it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean that's
not small. Yeah.
That's pretty good. 9 figures is always nothing to scoff at for sure. So that's. Yeah, I was just gonna ask because it seems like we're chummy. Clearly, I know you can have a conversation. Would you find, because obviously some individuals who might be trying to break into like pre-sales, for lack of a better term, right, they might be engineers, they might be introverted. Would you say that bartending gig helped you in some way? And if so, how?
Completely.
Go into that, because I
100%.
agree, because I did musicals growing up. I've always played music, so like for me, naturally, this is very easy for me to do. But I find others as well. So like, just go into that a little bit. Like, what was it about dealing with, I guess, really customer facing that helped you get to a point where you could combine both worlds? I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot of it right there, which is.
I'm sure. It's the reason I'm doing the pod, but no, please elaborate.
No, customer facing 100%. Also, bartending, even at like a Kansas City, family friendly, upscale ish restaurant, it's still very high pace. Like, quick on your feet. You got to think a lot. You got to learn how to prioritize your decisions quickly, and just going through those motions and doing it for quite some time. I mean, it naturally. It's a skill you can develop that's going to help you further down the road, for sure. Yeah, it's being quick. I would say being quick on your feet, being able to talk to people. Yeah, I would say it taught me things that I probably still use today, even if I don't fully recognize it.
Well, yeah, it becomes part of like almost like your working fabric, so to speak, like in terms of interaction. Like, I don't know, like I'm sure when you're in social scenarios, you're probably someone who can strike up a conversation with someone, and I'm sure your friends have probably said in some capacity, like, oh yeah, you can go talk to that person. You can do that. Like, oh, everyone's friends with Tim, right? Like, if I had to guess, I don't know, I could be wrong. Is that true? Is it not? Like,
I think there's some aspects to it that
sure. I might be stroking your ego a bit too much.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So okay, so it looks like that you worked, kind of traditionally, so to speak. Obviously, you're working on a 9-figure deal, which is awesome. Become the project manager, and then that leads you to joining VML, where it looks like you pretty much did almost a lateral move, so to speak, to becoming a consulting analyst. Maybe you were managing projects over there, but then eventually became a senior manager of solutions delivery that I think led you to the point where you started to get into customer success. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about VML and your story there. If you
actually, I do want to back up a little bit to my DST experience, because there was there was an inflection point in my career with that, between that like coordinator and analyst role that led me to where I'm at today.
Perfect. Go ahead.
And that was, so I landed this like coordinator web advocate position, and I was having a conversation with one of our VPs at the time, and we were talking about like strengths and how things are going and career progression and stuff like that. And I had kind of an uncomfortable conversation about how I was not happy in that role at that time with her. And this is my boss. This is my boss's boss. And so
you're having a skip. Wait, hold on. Let's back up a little bit. You had a skip level admitting you were unhappy. Wow. Can you go into like how you mentally prepared for that? Because I know this is a complete side tangent, but like I think that's really crucial in terms of like upskilling yourself and or like progressing in a career. I'd love to hear what prompted you to feel so confident that you could have that skip level, because I feel like sometimes bureaucracy gets in the way. I'd love to hear that, and then tie it back into your inflection point. But I think that's key to bring into.
Honestly, I think it was probably the weight of like the burden that I felt at that time, just being unhappy in this position, like being younger and trying to navigate a space that I was kind of uncomfortable with. And then just I'd say like the natural flow of the conversation and that coming out.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's good to hear that you had a skip level who was willing to facilitate that. That's nice.
Yeah. And it was more of the like navigating the uncertainty, I'd say a little bit, and like questioning her at that time about like, getting her advice on what she would do and whatnot. And feedback was good. And also I will say this individual was kind of like a little colder, more stone-faced person.
Okay.
So I'm a little surprised that I did have that conversation with her. But what resulted in that was immediately after a text message from my boss saying, "What the hell did you say to Cindy?" at that time.
Sure. Yeah.
And then having a career change conversation with him, one of his peers, to go on the more project-based work and analyst side of things. So that was the catalyst for the change at that time. And from there on out, I went to the BA role, went to the IT project management role. And then, like I was working through those and just recognized, my past love for tech and the growing love for it as well. And so actually during that period, I went back to school. I finished my degree. I got a computer information systems degree. First one in my family.
There it is. There you go.
So yeah.
Oh, good for you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it. And then as soon as that completed all that, kind of spread my wings a little bit, left the company I'd been at for 6 years, my first professional experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then just found new opportunities from there.
Yeah. So like, was it, so let's talk about that for a minute. So you were there. I mean, you spent a long time there, right? And I feel you. Like candidly, I've been upfront about this. I was not expecting a termination from UiPath at all. I mean, I'm sure you know, like I was a lifer there, man. Like I really enjoyed the product. I felt like I embodied the culture. Neither here nor there for this pod, but kind of going into something scary. So what was it that ultimately was it you finally getting that MIS degree and pushing you out, or was it just really time for that change for you to kind of expand your horizon a little bit more? Because it looks like you shifted from kind of being given scope to manage a project to kind of a little bit creating a little bit more. So I'm interested, what was it that kind of pushed you?
I think it was part of that. Like I recognizing the need for a change in my life.
Okay.
I'm not one to sit stagnant in any situation. So that like burning desire was there.
I mean, I remember you were in Chicago and you're like, I was gonna move to Denver. Like, it's just all right, cool.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, why not? And then also, I mean, like recognizing looking at my future a little bit and mobility, like,
Sure.
like being able to move to a different industry, to different companies. I felt that I could do that in tech, like being focused on tech more, which has 100% worked out for me. And then just the desire to grow as well. Yeah.
Sure.
The tech.
Yeah, I'll clap to that. Yeah. So because I followed a very similar path, and I can, I try to find people that I can relate to a little bit naturally, right? I'm not trying to, talk to people that I wouldn't relate to. But I definitely understand kind of where you're coming from this kind of generalist from an IT perspective, because an MIS degree, it does have a little bit more of a business context to it naturally.
It was actually, I went full tech. I went computer information systems.
Oh, you did actual comp sci. Okay, well then maybe you're smarter than I am, because I did the IT management degree, which was essentially like business. Okay, so even better, right? So but it's still, I think with comp sci, right, you do learn a lot of like the concepts around, like development best practices, the SDLC, right, so on and so forth. So I'm just to confirm kind of what you're saying. You would say that kind of helped you be successful generally in tech, and you could go to different industries and different things and you'd be able to figure it out. Would you agree, disagree?
100%. It helped me balance that sweet spot of the tech and business side, I would say.
Sure.
So you're able to talk to both sides of the world.
Sure. Yeah. Which I think makes sense, because after you decide to leave the nest, so to speak, you spend about 2 years at VML as the solution delivery, then you do a project manager with HS2. It looked like you were probably just trying to find something that you could sink in your teeth from like a services perspective, a solution perspective. And now you've been at UiPath for over 5 years, my guy. And I remember working with you as a CSM, then you hit senior, and now you're running things. So, to me, I guess, what was it that ultimately, and we'll round out obviously with some advice to give the audience here, but what was it after that CSM role that kept you at UiPath outside of having a job? Like, I know you, and clearly income is important to you, right? But what was it about UiPath? What was it about the tech? What was it about what you had learned? What was it about the role that really kept you there? Because I think 5 years now in the software space is kind of a little bit of an enigma. You know what I mean? Like, people usually stick around 2 to 3, get a better job or whatever, but you've stuck around for a while. So what is it?
Yeah, it's a lot of things. When people ask you, like, why have you been here so long? Like, what's your first response typically? It's like, it's the people, right? Like, yeah, 100%. I mean, like the tech is sound. That's evident within the market, the market as well. It's growing. It's heading in a, I would say, like, from what we can tell, the right direction, especially with the boom in AI right now as well.
I mean, and you guys have open headcount, so clearly funding's coming in somewhere.
yeah. Company's doing well. And then I would say, like, the ability to flex my creativity as well has worked out well for me. So between that, like, CSM to senior, and then, and at my DST days, I was living in Kansas City, moved to Chicago for a VML company. And then, when lockdown happened, we lost offices. I made the jump to Denver. That also came with a region change. So I got a new, I'd say, like, new experience with, like, new sales leaders, new peers, new boss, all of that. And then, just really flexing that creative muscle and having the ability to do so. Just try shit. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. If it does, it's a win. I'd say that autonomy has been one of the biggest things to keep me around as well.
Is there any I'm with you. Yeah. And is there anything, because I'm a big advocate for this as well, like kind of almost operationalizing what works for you. I think that's how you grow. I think like people are always just like, oh, you got to do more. But it's not like throwing some bullshit together to being like, oh, put a post up that people can know. I think it's more like operationalize what it. Is there anything that you did during your tenure to get to probably senior? Because then once you're a director, you're adhering to other things and managing a team. So that's a little harder to do. But is there anything that you can kind of hang your hat on in terms of like things you did maybe to operationalize something you were doing that was working in the motion? And I'd love to hear how you got to that, because I'm sure there's something you can think of, but I'd love to hear that because I think that's going to get us into the mindset of how you've been able to stick around as a CSM. And if people are trying to follow that path, I think it would help. So I'd love to hear if there's anything that you'd be willing to share.
Yeah, I'd say being objective has helped me out. So
Okay.
not objective in the sense to just like question things and be a pain in the ass, but to challenges. Think about how we can do things differently.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Things that worked out really well for me, like how our customers think about value as well,
Okay.
and like discovery, from like finding automation ideas to articulating like how to roll that out, to like creating that longer term vision of what success may look like for you. And then just how we build strategies around that and talk about it, present it back to customers. And then even the ways, like how we do those things within the pre-sales motion, as you're familiar with.
Sure. Yeah.
All the way into post-sale handoff kind of things. So
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I know there's a big cohort of the audience that's listening to this that's heard of post-sale handoff, and candidly, I've been part of some really bad ones. So what is it about? So let's look at the role, generally speaking, right? Obviously, we're being facetious, but walk me through what would constitute a good handoff, because obviously, and I'm not expecting everyone to be an automation expert here, but what are the things that you'd be looking for from a sales, an account executive, a pre-sales individual, whatever? What's going to be the best thing that you need for a true post-sale handoff? And it can be general. I don't think we need to get specific on UiPath, but like, what are the things that you're looking for? Because like I said, there have been times where we've made a sale and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you to go after, because like we just kind of sold it and that's it. So what are the things you'd be looking for to help you on a post-sale perspective? Because I really think this would help people who are in the selling motion.
Yeah, the actual handoff piece of itself, that's just like a tactical motion that you have. It's things like do we understand the customer? Do we understand their objectives? And like, why are they buying the software? What are they trying to do with it? Are they like trying to tackle some bigger problem or opportunity internally? Do they understand like the potential value that they're going to get out of it? Do they have the right people involved? Do they have a plan to execute and operate? Some of the like basic things, if you will, that are often like maybe not forgotten.
Missed. You can say missed. It's okay.
Yeah. All of that stuff, like knowing that beforehand, is only going to benefit the longer term post-sale execution for sure.
Yeah, and it's something that I say too, and I kind of teed you up for it to kind of like, stroke my own ego a little bit. But in all seriousness, like I really bring it up because like when I look at the pre-sales motion, I think this is why like people liked working with me, is that I look at it from a post-sales context. I don't necessarily go into it like, yeah, I understand the value proposition and I understand here's feature and functionality and blah, blah, blah. But I know as well as I do, you could throw me at any problem because I'm going to ask questions to serve two different masters. I'm going to ask it to show them at least what they need to see to substantiate like, hey, we're a technical fit. But then I'm also, just like you said, I can show you how to build this. Does it matter? Like, are you going to be the person that's actually building out the solution? Do you have an actual team in place that's going to help you with implementation? Like, it's everything you said. And I feel like the more we can hear people like you say that, the more we're going to be better in the pre-sales motion. Because I've always said, I'm like, you want to be a pre-sales engineer? Go do post-sales stuff. And people call me crazy. And I go, hold on, right? Because it's exactly what you're describing. Now, keep me honest here. How many times did we land a deal, you got assigned to an account, and you had to spend the first 3 to 6 months figuring out what the hell they bought it for? Happened a lot, right?
Oh, I would say 95% of the time. Yeah.
Right? Like, it's like I said, I know I'm teeing you up to have the combo, but like, this is a really, really important point that I wanted the audience to hear, is like, you're someone who's actually worked in the customer success role and not needed to switch. You've been able to stick around. You've clearly been able to cement yourself there. But like, we need to be on the sales side, making it easier for people post-sale. Like, even if it's nothing more than, hey, they want to implement the solution. The team we sold to isn't going to be involved, but here's the bigger vision. That's really easy for you to go back and deal with the stakeholders and then have a convo with the proper person and be like, what are you thinking about this? Right. So I know I'm kind of hijacking the combo here, but that part to me was like, oh my God.
This is why you were one of my favorite sales engineers to work with.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Stroke that ego a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Dude, are you kidding? Dude, come on. I got freaking my name with the damn like this now. Like, come on, man. Everything's great. But as we round out, I know we got some time. I know you wanted to obviously enjoy the Denver weather because it's been getting warm here. Appreciated the combo for sure. And if there's anything more you want to add, by all means, feel free to do so later on. But I do want to ask you one piece of parting words for the greater community. If people wanted to follow the Tim Ostrander path, meaning, right, is it, getting the degree, what is the one piece of advice that you would give people to kind of maybe even become a customer success director? Like or not a director, but be involved in customer success. What do you think would be the best piece of advice to get that journey started?
Well, I think first off, you got to start by stretching your college career out to 10 years. And then, and then taking on way too many student loans during the process as well, while you figure your life out.
That's awesome. I love that.
In all seriousness, I mean, actually, that period of my life did allow me to figure out, kind of my sweet spot. But I would think the sweet spot is probably the advice that I would drop in, and that's like find what you're good at, find what you enjoy, and like for some people that's like, I don't know, maybe you're never gonna find it, or like getting there maybe a challenge, but it's worth it 100%. Yeah, I'd say just hone in on that. Flex the creative muscle, find a space that you love, and then roll.
It's fine with me. Yeah, because it's meant to be open to it's meant to be open to interpretation, right? And I would agree with you that like finding, like my passion's always been interacting with people, helping people solve problems. If you're going to tell me that I woke up one day and said, you're going to be a sales engineer, there's no way that I would have thought that was going to be a dream job of mine. But I found out that I'm really good at it because it highlights my strengths. It highlights I get to have conversations with people. I get to demonstrate stuff. I get to play around with tech. And I think you're saying exactly that. Find your passion within that space. Maybe it's a vertical, maybe it's an industry, and then just double down on what you're good at. And something I've always said too, and I think it corroborates exactly what you said, is work for the role that you want while you have the role that you have, right? And I think you've kind of done very much of that as well. Like I think you being creative in a customer success role, I think is very interesting, because I would say some people might argue the opposite, like, hey, we got to follow process procedure, we got to make sure we hit our retention marks, whatever. But you're just kind of like, well, what's going to drive adoption, right? And that's kind of what it is. And it seems like that's why you've been there, man. 5 years is no joke, man. Especially at a startup. That's a long time, dude. I want to give you kudos for that. Like I didn't even hit the 5 years. I was close. 4 years, 11 months. Couldn't hit the 5. But did you get the plaque? Do we still do the plaques for 5 years?
No.
You should.
I'm gonna bring that up now.
You should. You definitely should. Yeah, because I thought I remember people getting now maybe it was when, like, I don't know, people had been around from like 2016 when we first got started, but I feel like 5 years at UiPath is
I hope it's like dinosaur or fossil shaped in some point.
That'd be sick. That'd be awesome.
That'd be pretty sick. Yeah.
In any case, thank you for the time, man. This was a great discussion. I know we'll obviously have more of them. If people wanted to follow you on LinkedIn, I'm sure you're probably an open book. People can connect with you, right? So on and so forth.
Please do. Yeah, I actually get pinged by people within the CSM field sometimes, just wanting to chat. Okay. Like either like bend my ear on the company or just like talk about the space as well. So feel free to reach out, shoot me a DM. I'll more than likely respond.
Awesome.
But yeah, no, appreciate the conversation and the time for sure.
Yeah, dude, likewise, man. That's really it for us on this chat. This has been KJ's Corner. Please remember, like, subscribe, comment, so on and so forth. Tim, you got to do that too. In any case, this has been KJ's Corner, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.